right, a very good afternoon to all of you, our cherished viewers of Hot Issues, and welcome to another exciting edition of your favorite program. Now, many of you have asked yourself that question. What is the contribution of the Bui Dam, for instance, to the national grid? How is that impacting our electricity generation? Well, this afternoon, we've got all the answers to these questions. And of course, we'll also be delving into some bit of political issues, particularly concerning the NPP, some 6 months into its office. Well, when I return after this break, I'll be introducing my guest, and then we'll begin deliberations on one, the contribution of the Bui Dam to Ghana's, energy needs. And then two, we'll find out from my guest also his political ambitions. I'm Winston Amoa, and this is Hot Issues. All right, so welcome back from that short break, and thanks for staying with us. My guest this afternoon is the Chief Executive Officer of the Bui Power Authority and former First Vice Chairman of the NPP, Fred Owari. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And thank you very much for joining us.
Also, thank you for having me here.
I believe you're doing very well.
Yeah, of course, yes, I am.
And how about the Bui Power Authority?
I think it's also doing very, very well.
What's the current generation?
We have a capacity of 400 megawatts, and all the 3 units are working. And therefore, in terms of that, we are not producing under any under capacity as such. But as you know, in the energy market, you sign a PPA, power purchase agreement, with a bulk purchaser, which is ECG. And the ECG has contracts with all these generating firms, the independent producers, and gives them to Gridco. Gridco does the transmission, and they have a systems control center. And so they decide who to come in at what time, for how many hours, and what capacity. By the end of the year, we're supposed to be generating 930 gigawatts per annum, which we are able to do.
And so on the average, in a day, how many are you?
It doesn't also mean...
I know, but if you're to strike it by the day, for instance, so we have a better understanding of it.
It doesn't work like that. That's what a lot of people think. They can ask you to be out for a day or two, or come in 3 hours, 6 hours, or 4 hours. And so there isn't an average as such. What you do is they make sure, because you see there's a price to it. And you don't generate just because you have the capacity. You generate because there's a need for it. So you have peak hours and you have low hours. What we actually does is, or let's say Gridco does, it takes what we call the base load, the cheapest on the market, which is coming from Akusumbu, because there's no loans to it. All right, then from there, it calls in some of the other IPPs, the private one, Car Power, and all those ones. They come in. We come in during peak hours, in the morning, 8 to 12, or in the evening, 6 to about 10, 11, depending on the load. And so we don't just put on the equipment and start generating because you have enough water in the reservoir or your machines are working. You have a systems control center which decides who comes in at what point in time.
So it is not every day that you give power to ECG?
It's
or
not
to
every
Gridco.
hour.
But every day you do?
But every day, yes. Every day we do.
But at least you would know on the average, I mean...
it's just that it's a very erroneous way of looking at power generation. That's why I don't want to answer that question that way. But what happens is, for example, off-peak hour, the entire national need might be, let's say, 2,000 megawatts. They are not going to ask everybody to come online, because once you come online, ECG is bound to pay the generating stations. Meanwhile, nobody might be using the energy, and you can't store it on the lines. And so they look at the system's need, and it's an impressive place that I think you should go and talk to them and find how it works. But a general population think that once the machines are working, you must always be
exactly
online.
The point, because for the general population, they would want to understand there's the fear that we have a white elephant which doesn't generate much for us, and yet we have to pay back some 622 million.
No. The plant was handed over by the Chinese to us in December 2013. And from that day till now that we're sitting here, the machine works every single day. There hasn't been any breakdown, not at all. We shut down periodically, either for quarterly or annual maintenance. And that also, you can't just go ahead and do it. There are 3 turbines. Indeed, there's a 4th one, a small one, that we use around the plant itself. But you discuss it with the Systems Control Center based on your evacuation or supply plan for the year. And they would determine that this day you come in. It's done on a monthly basis. And so we tell you that you put on maybe two turbines, 6 hours. Maybe you shut after 6 hours, you shut one down and keep one running based on the consumption needs. And that's what people find it difficult to understand. Because when you switch on your light, as we have the lights here, you can't tell whether it's coming from Akosombo, Pong, Bui, Tamale, or wherever. We have a lot of systems in the country which are producing electricity, which is now put on the national grid. But you can't, each and every one of us can't put it on the national grid just like that, because somebody has to pay for it, somebody has to use it. And if there's no need for it, you don't put it. So the System Control Center, I think if you have
So in a year,
it's 930
gigawatts,
yes,
which you're able to meet.
Yeah.
You've never defaulted.
No, there isn't a question of default as such.
You see, you're expected to meet.
You are not supposed
gigawatts.
to exceed it, but you can produce lower based on the systems control.
Have you produced lower than that?
Oh yes, 300, and last year we did 330. It's a shortfall of 100. But that is not as a result of our inability. It's a result of system control needs.
You said it was 900 gigawatts.
Yes. You signed a contract.
Last year you produced 300.
You sign a contract, and the contract is the maximum amount of power that you are supposed to evacuate, that they will buy from you. That's the maximum. It's not compulsory that they should buy the whole lot. Because, I mean, I don't mind sharing this information with you. But currently, as we speak, the electricity consumption has gone down a little bit more than expected. The amount of electricity that was being used last year, as at today, was more than what we are using right now, because there's a lower consumption rate. Part of it is, as I understand, people find it expensive. And industries, some of them are using gensets instead of buying from ECG. And this is something that people are not paying attention to. But the government's strategy is to make sure that, first of all, we have adequate, reliable, continuous, smooth supply of electricity for everyone, including the new plants and factories that will be coming out. The next phase of the effort is to make sure that we bring prices down. And that's what we're working on.
Yeah, so for last year, yes, you contributed 300. 800. Okay. Yes, because initially you said 300. And that's
no, I said 830.
830. Okay, yes. I mean, that was just by way of, and for many of our viewers now, they'll be asking the question, just by way of clarification, gigawatts, not megawatts.
It's gigawatts, yes.
Gigawatts. Great. So let's look at the loan, which it cost us some $622 million. That
was the original
amount.
That was additional 168.
The additional 168. And we're supposed to, make the payments into an escrow account, which will be used to pay them.
We're doing that.
We're doing that. How well are we doing? The grace period is about to expire?
Very well. No. The last payment was made on 21st of May, a couple of months ago. We make 2 installment payments each year. The next one will be 21st November this year. So far, we haven't defaulted. We're working, and we have good enough money in the account, receivables, to be able to, if you like, pay off one of the loans completely off.
You can pay off the loan completely?
There were 4 loans, totaling that amount. And I'm saying we have enough receivables to retire one of the... Bui is a very good investment, I would like to assure you. It's a very, very good investment. And if you had money, I would encourage you to go into energy generation. It's a very good investment.
Okay. But you see, in the past, your own party, at the time they were in opposition, they were criticizing the efforts of Bui.
No.
That was never, at the time they said we had become a white elephant.
No. We initiated.
Yes, but you had said we had become a white elephant.
No, we never said that. It was
not you. The NPP said that.
No, it wasn't the NPP. It was the NDC which took over from us and sought to portray that it was a white elephant, was a useless investment, is not going to do what it's meant to do. But right from day one, and try and listen to this carefully, right from day one, apart from the amount of energy that we're supposed to produce, it was also intended to be a peaking plant. Peaking plant means that you come in only at peak hours. So in the morning, when there's a high demand of it, because we have a quick turnaround, the machines are new, electronic, you put it on within 4 minutes, you are at your top, gear. And therefore, it's meant to be on standby at any particular point in time, so that if there's a problem somewhere, we are called in and within 4 minutes, we're up and running, full steam.
Good.
That was what it was intended to be. But that nonetheless, we make sure that by the end of the year, we would have given the maximum load that we are supposed to.
But talking about, energy, power generation, I mean, yes, you're praising me, but talking about power generation now, I mean, we've all said it, that many of the experts have said hydro. Now we've moved on. How come you're so, gracious and praising a hydro when they're talking about going thermal, they're talking about going nuclear and going renewable?
Let's try and get the terminologies right. Renewable energy or clean energy is any energy source that you do not have to convert the natural resource, like the sun rays. You don't have to do anything to it. Like the wind, you don't have to, even the water. So traditionally, we've not added a hydro as a renewable,
yes.
But globally, everybody in Russia and China, where you have even 2,000 megawatt, they put all of them as renewable. And I think we ourselves, Ghanaians, we're also redefining our renewable.
But we haven't done that yet. We haven't done that
yet. At this point in time, you can assume that we are. At this point in time, you can assume that we are adding hydro to the renewable group, all right? The thermals are rather more expensive than the renewable. And the whole world is shifting more and more to renewable than the thermal. All right. Now, for us as a country, I think we had a summit some 2-3 weeks ago, and today, as I talk to you right now, should have been in Akosombo, we're having a Ghana national renewable energy policy being fashioned out. That we're going to go more into solar, wind, and other biogas and other sources.
Exactly, because the last time I saw the Energy Commission's projections, they're looking at, I think, 10% by
Well, it's feasible.
2030. Yes,
I
and
think
the renewable sources they talked about was wind, solar.
I promise you we'll do that maybe 10 years, even before the target date. Because 2030, we estimate that the national need will be 5,000 megawatts. As I sit here talking to you right now, installed capacity for this country exceeds 5,000. Just that our need is just about half of that amount. But otherwise, installed capacity. Now, the next effort of government is to try to bring the prices down. But unfortunately, a lot of the PPAs, the power purchase agreements, have been locked in beyond this period. And the Ministry of Energy is looking at ways and means to bring down, to renegotiate and bring down the prices. If we can bring the tariffs down, then the ordinary end user would also pay something lower than that. But by year 2030, if you are talking about 5,000, then you are saying, and we say that it's 10%, then you say, what you are saying is that it will be 500, all right? 500. Already we are doing, I think, 20 in the Winneba. It's been up and running. I am absolutely certain the year 2020, we at the dam site will be doing 250. We have plans, working with others who are already in the country, and I'm sure that the year 2030, we probably will be looking at solar alone, 1,000 megawatts. But the point is that it's a target that the government has set for itself, but it's more than achievable. I think that we will get there long before 2030. I'm absolutely certain.
Great. I mean, you expected to have settled some 1,216 people as a result of the dam construction. How many have you settled so far?
We settled all of them. There were, I think, 9 communities that we brought them together. We built nice village.
You have settled all of them?
All of them. There isn't even one that would say that they've not been settled. There's a little hitch there, though. We put up all the buildings, but there were a group of people from a village known as Dokochina. Half of the people have moved into their new homes. The other half said they do not want to move because they have some ancestral ties to the land, and they've buried their chiefs and other people there, so they don't want to move.
So not all have moved?
But they have moved from the original location and resettled at a different location. We're still talking and make sure that we house them, because the houses we built for them at the village are still vacant, and they just need to come and occupy them.
All right, so my guest this afternoon is Fred Oware, who is CEO of the Bui Power Authority and former first national vice chairman of the NPP. When we return after this break, we'll find out his political ambition, and we'll also get his thoughts on the raging saga of bust. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. So welcome back from that short break, and thanks for staying with us. This is Hot Issues on TV3 with me, Winston Amwa, and we still have Fred Oware here with us. The last time I spoke to you, you were thinking of becoming chairman of the NPP, having a second try. You still want to do that?
I love what I'm doing for the time being, and I've not decided either to abandon or to pursue it. But we'll have a national conference coming up next month in August in Cape Coast. I am certain that by that time. But I love very much contributing to the increase of energy supply to the country. I've initiated some new programs in the renewable. We've talked to a number of people who have shown interest, and I'd like to see them through.
No, but you were certain last year. I remember last year speaking to you on 3FM. Last year,
last year when you talked to me, I wasn't doing anything. I was just waiting for the time to come for the announcement to be made. Right now, I'm deeply involved in making sure that we promote the agenda of the president to make sure we have enough reliable, adequate supply of energy. I think we do politics to go into office, public office, to serve the people. I have opportunity to serve the people right now, and perhaps my personal political ambitions, perhaps at this point in time, may appear to be secondary to serving the people, because that's the whole essence.
You think that you think the executives that led the party into office did very well? You want them to continue?
Well, it's not for me to say.
Personally.
No, I can't say that, because we have a constitution and we are governed by that.
Exactly, but you as an individual can also say, okay, I believe that Freddie Blay has done well. I believe John Guedu has done. These are guys they want them to continue.
I can't say that, and I won't say that. What I can say is what the constitution says. Whether it's me or you or whoever else, if the constitution says at the end of each term you should offer yourself, for the people to determine.
But if somebody leads you into victory, he's done well, hasn't he?
Well, but it's still for the people. It does not take away the right of the people that because you've done well, you are perceived to have been to have done well, you should just go contrary to the dictates of the constitution. The constitution says that you offer yourself, and so that's what they need to do. And if the people, the delegates, so wish to reaffirm their confidence in you through the ballot box.
Your party's constitution said people should put themselves up for the flag bearership, but there are many of your members who at the time felt that the current president should have been given the chance to contest.
Yeah, but irrespective
he didn't do so. Yes, but so then, if you feel that Freddie Blay did well, and he wants to be chairman, you want to support there's nothing that prevents you from doing so.
There's nothing in the constitution which says that we should choose our leaders.
And there's nothing that prevents you from saying, I support this person.
By the way we feel, not by the way we feel. It is what the constitution prescribes. That is what we have to abide with. And if the constitution says that at the end of each term, people should feel free to reoffer themselves, that is the way it must be done. It is for the people exercising their right through the balloting, who would decide whether you've done well or not, and therefore you should continue or not. And so it's just a mute, point that we can debate it for the whole day, and there won't be any convergence of ideas on that. My viewpoint, that is.
On a scale to, say, from 1 to 10, based on your decision making, how is it tilting? You haven't made up your mind yet whether to abandon your previous position or continue with it. But how is it going for you? If you listen to your mind's
Well, I
eye.
haven't looked at the scale yet, but I've told you that I like what I'm doing, and I think I'd be happier to champion the objectives that we've set, the targets that we've set ourselves at BPA, and make sure that by the end of the year, some of the 2 projects that we've embarked on to, as you know, we've finished the switchyard. We've finished the switchyard expansion for 250 megawatts of solar power. Okay. And I think that is something that I feel excited to continue.
Finally on this bit, if you so much want to contribute towards energy need, then it should be easier for you to say, I'm not interested in becoming chairman of the NPP.
The point is, you asked a question as to my personal interest.
And you say you want to see to be.
Last year, I was emphatic that I was going to run because I wasn't doing anything. For the time being, I've got my hands deeply immersed in a project that I feel excited, and I may see to it a logical, end. If it will conflict with my personal interests, I'm sure I'll prefer working for the country rather than seeking my personal interests. But the point is that we are at a crossroads, and that will be determined next month. And I think I'm humble enough to say that let's wait. You'll get the answer.
While we wait to see, is it time to bring Afoko and Cabinet Japan back?
Again, that's not for me to say.
If you were to advise?
Advise who? We are bound by the, it's not just advice the party, we are bound by a constitution. There's a body known as the National Council. I'm not a member. They take those kind of decisions, and I don't think they need my advice. They know what to do. We've come this far. The next thing is to go to the conference. The conference would discuss these issues, and the decisions that will be taken by the conference will be abiding, on all of us. It will be binding on all of us, and that's what I think we should be patient and wait and hear from the conference.
What's your assessment of your party 6 months into office?
I think we've done well. 6 months, the president has been able to fill a lot of the strategic offices. The key pillars of rule of law, education, health, housing, and energy, they are all on track. I think a year into the office, by end of the year, then the results will become a bit clearer. Now we can see the framework, and those of us, fortunately for somebody like me, sitting where I'm seated, I see what is being done in energy, and I'm absolutely certain that a year from today, Dumso will be completely part of our history, and the next phase of our effort then will be focusing on how to bring the energy prices down. I think we are doing very, very well. I can't give you the details of health, of housing, of education.
Maybe security.
Because security, I mean, there's no national threat.
Bochijan says he would rate your government 1 out of 10. You are a failure when it comes to security.
That's an individual viewpoint.
What's your viewpoint?
No, I mean, I think he's absolutely wrong. But some of these things also have the effect of distracting the government from its agenda, following the trajectory that it's put itself on, and go into some kind of debate. We'll leave that to the party, communicators to debate them and get the officers who have been appointed and are in government to continue to focus on public service rather than doing politics. I won't come and sit here and do politics. I have work to do to serve the people of Ghana in terms of energy production. That's what I want to put my energies on. If somebody wants to debate me on some matters that I consider to be inconsequential to the work that I'm doing, I'll pass it on to the debaters for them to focus on.
So the party communicators will deal with Bachijan? Yeah. You wouldn't want to get in?
I think we have work to do, and we need to focus on it.
Let's look at the work that we have to do. Yeah. What's your assessment of this whole boss saga, if I could put it that way?
I'm sure I don't know any much more than you do know, because what I know is what's in the public domain, that there's been some fuel products which had been labeled contaminated. There's issue about the description itself, whether the description contaminated was the appropriate word, what should have been done. Should it have been sold, or maybe mixed with some additives to bring it to a certain level, or what have you. The gentleman there, I don't think I know the whole lot, but I understand part of the story is that the items were even imported into the tanks before he even got that job and went into office. And so at this point in time, I think it serves our own national interest to get a proper investigation done. And out of that, come out with some recommendations which will deal with that problem, not that particular transaction. But if there is something, because I've read something to tell me that there are all kinds of things.
But the BNS exonerated him.
Well, I mean, I'm not an investigator, and so...
But since you talk about proper investigations, the BNI says he's done no wrong.
Well, I mean, that's what I told you at the beginning, that I don't think I know more than you do know. And so if you know that, I didn't know that, but if you know that the BNI has exonerated you, I didn't know they had finished their work. If that is the case, that should be so. But beyond that, I think we need to find out how is it possible you can have tanks meant for separate types of fuels, and by accident, this is not pouring Fanta into Coke. By accident, these things can happen. I think there should be some means of ensuring that those things don't happen. And when we talk about these things, we're talking about national interests, it's not politics. And so we need to find out how it happened and what must be done so that it doesn't happen again. And if it should happen, what should be the methodologies in dealing with some of these issues. It's something that shouldn't happen. Something that shouldn't happen.
So there's more investigations needed to also deal with that aspect
of it.
From where I sit. Yeah. From where you sit. Fred Owari, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me here.
It's been great having you. That's all from us this afternoon, Hot Issues, folks. Thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you join us same time next week for another wonderful edition. My name is Winston. I'm going to make sure you catch me on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7 on Monday. Have a lovely weekend.